Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We got another episode of No Bull with Nobu, the All American Shaman. Thanks for joining us. Nobu, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, brother.
Thanks for being here. We got a list of things that I wanted to go through, on my side and also on your Telegram channel. There's been a lot of good questions and interaction and dialogue, and people wanting to know more information about your morphic fields. So I know we had an episode dedicated to that, but if we can do a little bit of a deeper dive this time, maybe we can get into some more specifics and practical applications with your fields, if that's cool with you.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just first and foremost, as a consumer or a user of your morphic fields or other creators, generally speaking, what are some of the reasons or benefits or kind of like what can they help out the listener with?
Anything in the broader scope of everything, because everything that exists within reality is contained within the field or consciousness of reality, and within that, all these different subfields, be they planetary, celestial, chemical, karma, they all exist. If we thought of like a library of reality, all of them would have a certain code or energetic signature associated with them. So I would say the most common ones that most people tend to gravitate towards are beauty and physical enhancements of various degrees, romance, money, and success. Those are probably the primary, mostly root chakra driven to things that people desire.
So as the listener, you download an audio file, and often it comes with an image as well. So you can maybe talk about those two delivery mechanisms, like the visual and then the sound.
Yeah. So one, the field itself is embedded within the image and the audio. So I don't want people to get caught up in analyzing the song or analyzing the image to a certain degree. That's another layer of function added onto things for congruency's sake. But yes, the energy of the field is contained within both the mandala or image, and we do PNG files for lossless format and wave files for lossless format as well for audio. Um, and again, these contain that signature. So if you're having it within your own field, be it playing or printed off on a dog tag, on a Polaroid print, or even as your phone screen, it is within your auric field, your biofield, and thusly is the software that subfield is running as a program within yours.
Mm. So that kind of came to mind, like an active or passive approach. It seems like you could probably take both of them. And is there a difference in effect or like maybe strategy for using them, like actively meditating on them or kind of passively having them run in the background? Can you talk through those two potential options?
Yes. So for right now, for example, on my main monitor, I have the mandala for Arana, which is spider in Spanish, uh, on my screen. And even though I'm not as I'm looking at you on my second screen, I'm not actively meditating on this mandala, but again, it's still entering into my eyes. Again, where attention goes, energy flows, even if it's subconscious, right? Again, that's why it matters. Everything we wear, do, say, hear, ingest, because it's all having an immersive effect on us. So that's one way of having passive. Also having it printed off inside of the wallet, in the back of the phone case. So that passive techniques, or printing them off and having them in your space. One of my customers has them printed off in space. I have my 616 symbiotes printed off above my door frame and on my window, essentially acting as a guard dog aspect. So and I can speak probably forever just about the passive uses of these things. I mean, if when it comes to symbiotes and any sort of tulpamancy or egregore, something that I breathe a lot more intelligence and consciousness or a voice into, the sky's really the limit in terms of what you can do with it. Really is. I set mine up so again, by having them physically printed off at my window or at my door, it's creating a stronger, again, attention plus intention equals connection. I have the attention now greater enhanced because I'm passing them more. And again, even if I'm not consciously thinking to myself, like it's above my door, I'm still seeing it as I walk by. I'm still getting hit by that energy every time I walk by it through in and out my door or other things, right? So it can raise the alarm. Having it in my window, giving away all my tactics, having it in my window is also acting as a sentinel to the outside world, both again protective and also surveillance. I was
Mm.
at a house before in Washington State, and it was the previous creator using their symbiotes, and I had them printed off in many locations throughout the house again, and then having it as my phone background and on my dog tag essentially creates a spider web of different connections or cords to that field, so increasing my overall influence and connectivity to my own little web. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and it kind of brought up, and actually, I was talking to Brittany, my wife, about this the other night, as far as because Morphic Fields was like a brand new concept to me, right? And like at first, I had a disbelief around like, wow, like how could this audio, you know, track that I'm listening to change my external reality? It seems unbelievable, right? In a lot of different ways. But then it's like, okay, even if it is placebo, even if there's nothing to it, like if, you didn't actually create it, you didn't put any intention or attention with it, and I, randomly found some MP3 on the internet, but I believed that it was going to do that. I feel like that's almost effective in its own right as far as the placebo effect, because maybe that subconscious um, seed was planted of the belief that this track was going to help me to manifest that new reality for me. So, thus, to then take it to the next level of the actual morphic field. So, like, it's not just some random empty sound clip or whatnot, because the creator put into that creation the intention for that result to come about as well. So it's like this collective where attention goes, energy flows with you, the creator, with me, the listener, and then if I talk about it amongst my friends and family circle, then it's like them as well having this expectation that this result is going to come about. So could you maybe talk about that angle of it as well, as far as like the subconscious, because you came to the field and you're listening to the audio with that intention, kind of those effects on their efficacy.
Great question. And you're going to have to catch me if I start rambling off in one direction because there's a lot I want to get to there. There's a lot I want to
Okay.
touch on. First off, I want to state this: someone does not need to know that a morphic field is playing or around them to have an effect. And I've tested this many times now, of where, and I've gotten feedback from customers as well, where they've been playing Viral Night for their 2-year-old niece, which she didn't explain to her 2-year-old niece, like, now this is going to, this is going to destroy coronavirus. And, no, like it energy in the equation still operates the same. Now, yes, having someone's subconscious and conscious mind in alignment and coherence to work with it is much better, right? Because let's just use something for the example again of a symbiote, something that has an external consciousness other than your own, like has its own desires and own modus operandi, its own voice. If someone is consciously choosing to believe in this and interact with, they're gonna have a much easier time of having a good relationship and harmonizing with the field, right? Both from the cymatic perspective, from the psychological perspective, and also from the morphic resonance. Because again, morphic resonance, right? To resonate, to be at the same frequency as that field. Yes, of course. It generally is better off when people are educated and understand what it is they're using. Um, I also think that too, in my experience of using other creators, I think that if your subconscious mind is also wondering and running the entire time of like wondering like, well, this is what the hell is this? What does it work? And this is as someone who's like been using these tools for a while. I would say it's actually probably your subconscious mind warning you that it's poison. Like if it
Mm.
doesn't feel smooth to ingest, it's probably not for you. Like, and that's also too, I always tell people, like, trust your intuition, which brings me to another point. As far as the creator's intention and what results you get. And I know I'm very stubborn and I answer this question a lot. People will say to me, Nobu, like, what benefits does this field give me? And I'll have a list of different, be it herbs, stones, frequencies, peptides, what have you, underneath the mandala and field that I upload. And I'm very intentional with not stating this will do this and that by this mechanism of action in this way, et cetera, because that is actually limiting people's results, right? So if I make a field with the energies of onyx, obsidian, and titanium, and hematite, and black tourmaline, and even if like I had in mind, again, the intention of like, I'm going to put these things together to make a shield, to make a spiritual shield and absorb negativity and what have you. But someone else could pick up that shield, whether it be a real physical shield or an energetic shield, and use it offensively. They could put it in a space and cause a blanket of darkness, essentially, a quiet zone, a bubble. I'm also referencing in a way onyx, one of my favorite fields. It is, I create it primarily as a defensive tool, but just like if I create a firearm in real life, I cannot control the person that's shooting it, their skill set, their application of the firearm, and all these various factors. I've used military symbiotes to pull entities out of people, for their astral abilities. That's not what they were designed for, was even in the sales docket for the item. But I just also wanted to really harp on that point. So when people come to, the site and see, well, it doesn't explain to me like you need to think about things with me, and also learn to trust your intuition, because I'm not here to baby people and telling them like, well, it's gonna unlock your conjugated linoleic acid in your GLA, and then it's gonna interact with carnosine and L-carnitine. Like, look at the pieces and do your own research and decide if it's for you. And because I don't want to limit, again, people's potential results, because people have had some obscene results without me even planting in their minds any sort of mechanism of action, or, you will experience this.
Right, because everyone is coming to the field with their own past, their own DNA, genetics, background, experiences, and all that. So the chemistry, the interaction that will occur once they interact with that field will have varying results depending on who that person is.
Yes. And again, the path is more narrow because the calling is higher. I know that I'm not being the best salesman by not just telling people like what my intention was or how it's going to operate, but I'm in this for the long game. And again, everyone's different. I've said this analogy so many times. A Gemini should not be listening to an onyx field. It's going to ground out their air energy far too much and make them depressed. I've experienced some interesting things in real life as far as Geminis and onyx. So again, each person's chemistry being different. I mean, that's also too why I don't really put much limits or disclaimers on my field, because what's stopping a female from using a testosterone field? There's nothing. I mean, like, women need testosterone too. Males need estrogen. There's a time and place for things. I don't use your imagination, use your intuition. Who knows what you'll cook up? Sometimes I also just get downloads of like, I want to, I make monochromic material. I'm like, I'm going to put together all these different stones in my fanny pack and see what happens. I didn't have an intention for it. I was just like, let's throw a bunch of numbers, again, energies, fields at a wall, combine them and see what happens. That's where, again, I really encourage people to be curious, to be creative, to experiment. And also, again, we'll probably dial on this, but also to be consistent in their experimentation and their research.
Mm-hmm. So I'd recommend someone first starting out to maybe try a few different ones for a certain amount of time, gauge how they're feeling, before, during, and after they interact. There's any maybe recommendations for someone just starting out exploring morphic fields, and which ones to maybe start with, and expectations coming in, and like you're saying, like consistency or duration.
I would say, again, every single person's different, so it's really hard for me to even give a broad, because I don't know if we're talking to someone who's been doing 7 years of practicing with magic and yoga and energy work and breath work, or if it's someone who just 7 days ago realized that they're not the only person in this reality. Like they just had their first level of like ego death in some capacity. I don't know. Um, I would say from a basic level, using nervous reboot to work on the nervous system, the both the sympathetic, parasympathetic, the enteric, all the different levels of nerves, because those are very dense electrical energies. And just a little sidestep. Usually within my work, I like to approach things from a broad upper brushstroke of things at times where I'm doing really vague, broad topics in a very like shotgun spread approach of achieving results. And then there's other times where I go very dense and very sniper and specific when it comes to like looking at specific chemicals and compounds and molecules and how they interact and achieving changes within the body or reality through those ways. Again, pick your method, pick your path. There's no superior or inferior in my book, but I'm just giving my recommendations from what I've done. And then on to match with that nervous reboot operating at the very dense physical level of things, have aura, and that audio, that field cleanses out the aura. Which again, if people have stagnation, whether it be muck or what have you, it's going to be stopping their results. Because again, it's hard for someone to integrate new things in their aura, which again, your aura is just a lesser dense version of you. So for fields to take place and manifest in your physical most dense, because again, this isn't matter, this is energy. It just looks like it's solid, but as we discussed before, it's mostly empty space. And people just aren't aware or don't perceive the other energy bodies outside this rainbow. But if your aura itself is too weak to keep a field within it, then it's going to be hard for it to take seat and resonate deeply at that cellular level. So that's a second two-pronged approach there. When in doubt, ground out. That field is for grounding. I recommend people always touch grass in real life, but some people don't listen. So there's that. If you get overloaded at any time from fields, because again, if you're taking too much electricity and too much energy, it can be hard to, work that out of your system. So again, that's also why exercise is important. But and then ginseng, chibi, and shenden, my three treasures fields, they increase traditional Chinese medicine three treasures of Jing, Qi, and Shen, which is basically increasing. It's going to make you more like a Jedi in terms of having an attunement of, basic ethereal energies. And just a quick side note, Jing is like the wax of the candle. Qi or Qi is the flame. And then Shen, you can't really see it, but Shen is that heat being given off by the flame. And again, that Jing being the dense physical body, how much life force we have within us. Again, someone who's higher Jing is going to be more physically robust and age less. Qi, Qi, the flame, the movement energy, their metabolism, right? How energetic someone is. And then Shen, usually see in their eyes how, or their aura, like how spiritual, how luminescent, again, which again is going to allow things to manifest, which we talked about before about juicing, increasing biophoton density, spiritual energy. Again, different ways of approaching the same thing. And then the last ones I would recommend for people who are new and just as like a broad scope would be Cord Sword, Holy, 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 and Exorcism Rite 2.2.2, or No Weapons Form Shall Prosper. Cord Sword removes cords. It's one of the first fields I ever made, and it was a complete hit. People still give testimonies for it. Shout out to the real ones. It removes any sort of toxic bonds or cords. Again, whenever you interact with someone, whether it be eye contact, sexual exchange, argument, what have you, these things, cords get placed. And Cord Sword's intelligent. Again, fields all have an intelligence of their own, but it works with you, the user, to remove the connections that aren't serving you in the best way. Which again, it's going to be hard to power your 5G connection. You know, if you are leaking and if there's a bunch of people plugging their USBs into your phone charger, right? For lack of a
Mm.
better analogy. So that helps in that capacity. Then Holy, Holy, Holy works at that from a more like overarching spiritual standpoint using Archangel Michael, Saint Benedict, and I can't remember what was the third energy I put in that field. But it's a really easy field to sleep to. It's really, you can just feel it cleansing a space when you listen to it, which again, sometimes just getting yourself into your own energetic bubble is what it takes to have your own metamorphosis or chrysalis experience too. Because it's also hard to manifest results with fields if you're under spiritual attack of any form. Um, Again, just like it's hard to grow muscles in your body when you're calorically deficient or you're putting toxins and poisons in your body. You're going an uphill battle. So the spiritual protection fields I find to be really, again, important in terms of that trifecta of we have making sure that the aura and the physicality is clear for things. We have making sure we have the fuel of these different energetic, layers, these pranic, more ethereal energies, although people still need to get their calories and nutrition as well until you're more advanced. And then the protection pieces of making sure that you're not getting siphoned or drained in some way by any sort of other entity or person, so that way you have all the juice you could possibly use. Because I've had times in my life where I was listening and using like Jing or Shen restoring fields, but I was just bleeding it out right away.
Mm.
Because for a variety of reasons, whether that be through um being around their own people, spiritual warfare, sexual endeavors, what have you. So this is also the reason why I also bring those up, because it never stops. Like healing, you every time you step out in the world, you're getting weathered. In the physical sense, there's friction. Your house is not going to ever look as good as it did the first day it was made, most likely. You know, Entropy does exist. So having these things in place to megantropic, fields such as the Jing and Qi and Shen series, reversing that are really in our benefit to, maximize our results with running high level software on top of that. Does that sufficiently
Mm.
answer all your questions, brother?
Yes, and in depth as well. Just a note to the listeners who may not be familiar with some of these names. They're names of the morphic fields that Nobu has on the Telegram channel thus far, but we're putting them up on the website, nobuttheshaman.com or nobuttheshaman.com. So check it out there. We're uploading new ones regularly. Got some for free, got some that are for purchase as well, some of the more powerful and advanced ones. And actually, maybe nice little segue into talking about that as far as some of the free fields. Are they maybe a little bit more beginner friendly? Is that why they're at a zero cost, perhaps? And then some of the ones that are more pricey, are they perhaps more advanced, practitioner centric?
It's for the pricing's for a variety of reasons. One is being very honest out the gate. I deserve to get paid for my time. Look at the value too of what I'm bringing via these fields. And I want to quote, Rain and Rage. Thank you, brother. For his testimony recently about ear here, of where in modern medicine, when someone loses hearing, they tell you you shit out of luck. You gotta get hearing aids. That's pretty much like with eyes and vision. It's not really, I would say most allopathic medicine, they're not really good at actually restoring health people, just again, slapping symptoms. But I digress. He was faced with this, at a young age with this serious irreversible problem, which again, the cost of going to therapy or getting hearing aids would be hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on whether or not he has insurance in the United States. And with a free field, ear here, he's gotten hearing back in his ear. Or there was a woman who increase your breast size via lit art the titties. How much would it cost to go get implants? Thousands of dollars, like going out to Las Vegas and California. So again, the value of what I'm providing is astronomical. I want to remind people of that. I know that the market is saturated with a lot of different individuals, but you do get what you pay for sometimes. So like if you're rolling with, again, and you and I were talking about this before about so many creators are faceless. And I just want to tell people this around this again. If their protection fields or subliminals did half of what they said they would, then why would they have any need to be afraid of showing their faces to anyone? Food for thought.
Good
I
point.
digress. So some of the fields are put behind a paywall because they're very much a want and not a need. Like Cord Sword, things for the chakras, things for healing the body at a very basic level, cancer, candida, parasites, all those things I have out, for free. Because again, I see the overall potential reach of this medicine. And I do believe a lot of those things need to be available to everyone. Because I know that, even $22 in India is an exorbitant amount of money. So I do try and make sure that I have, options available. But for like in this premier products too, there is also some risk, right? You could hurt yourself. I shouldn't be putting 50 BMGs in the hand of beginner shooters, right? They should be shooting at 22 or 9 mil. I mean, even like when I first made Zero Entropy, and someone else was texting it, Alex, thank you. We both ungrounded ourselves, and I don't want to say I'm not a master, but I am advanced in energy work of various kinds. And I made the thing and it ungrounded me. So, which led me to then make Descendo Modder shortly thereafter, make a new next level grounding, field. And furthermore, too, like I've been at this now for almost a year of making fields. Like I'm going to continue to evolve and grow. So, with that being said, with greater level quality of creations, for us, to do what we do, there does need to be some sort of exchange for things as well. It's not an entirely zero cost production to begin with, as you know.
Right, right. And everybody needs money to live in this world. So most people get paid for their jobs. So I think that's it makes sense as well that you need to get paid for doing your job. We were talking about the kind of like morphic field as having intelligence, and then um, you also mentioned this concept of symbiote, which I think we may have talked about on the previous morphic field episode. But could you talk about the distinction there between the intelligence of a morphic field and the intelligence of a symbiote? And are they related or separate?
Separate. So every field, whether it be again magnet, electromagnetic, morphic, they operate through habits, not laws. Again, like people think about gravity. Like gravity is not a static number. Like gravity changes, just like the Schumann resonance, the Earth's heartbeat, that frequency changes. We call it 7.83, but it's always fluctuating. It's not static. The surface of the sun is not static. It's also, operating within patterns. It has its average or its mean. But this is an important point to remind people that the only constant of anything, period, is change. So the fields have an intelligence in the sense that they are living entities. So for example, if I create a field that's connected to spiders, coyotes, hawks, and centipedes, that field's going to be different in 5 years than it is today. Well, because it's connected to the field of those different species. So if those species change, so if like after Chernobyl, after the spiders got exposed to all that radiation, and the wolves too, well then the lighter skinned inferred counterparts died off, but the ones that were higher in melanin, darker, survived and also even thrived. That has, and this is where again, it's a much deeper dive in the future, but that's where modern science can't explain what morphic fields can, because we're going to see changes within all those species as a whole. Again, mostly again within the ones connected to their actual DNA, but it's going to affect all spiders again within their genus, within their families and their kingdoms, at a broader scope of the entire, superconscious, the collective field. The separation is an illusion, and time's an illusion as well. But so what I'm just getting at is, as for example, like if I put GLP-1 into a field, as people learn to interact with that field and use it, the field learns from them as well, right? Maybe they're not using it for weight loss. Maybe they're using it as a performance enhancer in the gym. Or perhaps someone's using, maybe I put some nitric oxide boosters inside of a male enhancement field and someone uses that for working out. The field learns from the users as well, and where it becomes also easier then by proxy for other people to learn those skills from the field, which again, I think we told in the last episode of how monkeys trained or rats in a task went across the globe, then when done in a different area of the globe, did much faster. It's because they already, again, there was no sort of talking, there was no hereditary, shared DNA of that level. It was just within the field of those species that they shared the information. I think I hit everything there.
Yeah, so that kind of raises the concept. So, like, some of your greatest hits, like you mentioned, Cord Sword's been around for a long time, and people have had success with it. Like, the more people that use it and find success, does it make it easier then for other people to then pick it up and also find success because of like the collective advancement of the field, so to speak?
Yes, and this is one thing I really enjoy about fields as they grow with time. Now, I would say there's one caveat to this, and I currently haven't experienced this, but like some creators who put their work on YouTube, or again, just as a person can get vamped or siphoned or attacked in spirits in some way. Also, again, like a field can get attacked or siphoned or whatnot. I don't think
Mm.
I have that level of an audience yet, or I'm not meeting that aggression, but it is possible for something to get um attacked and outside influence as well. Because again, anything that's exerting influence on you, you are exerting influence as well. So I'm not trying to scare people, but let's just say, like, again, you're listening to, some subliminal or field on YouTube that has millions of views. Well, all the degenerate, gooner, racist assholes that were like, trying to manifest evil or heinous results with that are also, interacting with that in some capacity as well. The observer and the observed are the same. This is why, again, shameless self plug. I highly recommend people, if they want to, just get a custom from me, a private that only you and I have, because then you don't have to worry about anyone else interacting with the field. The only person that's learning from and vice versa is you. There's trade-offs there, right? You know, but ask any good sniper in the military, no one else touches their sniper but them. Right? That
Mm.
every shot is logged. If you want to get next level results, you want as much of a sanitary, sterile, clinical environment as possible, right? So that is one benefit of those.
Control as many of the variables as you can.
Mhm.
Yes, you mentioned kind of like the potential for vamping energies and things like that. Could you maybe discuss? You also mentioned the intuition and just kind of feeling how you're reacting to hearing a field from a various different creator to see if there may be some perhaps nefarious elements included. Is that kind of something to look out for as a consumer? The trustworthiness of the creator and potentially other elements that might be inside that are not disclosed.
Yeah, I would just look at the overall vibe of the person, right? People usually tell you who they are in plain sight, whether or not it's consciously or not. But it's often in hindsight that we realize we knew who we were dealing with the whole time. It just didn't connect all the dots. But if there's a fine line. This is where again the intuition piece comes into play. There's a fine line between getting overloaded from a tool and getting vamped or siphoned from a tool, and they can both feel similar. Again, I want to give context. Like when I sacral chakra was still bleeding out energy in my root, ginseng would actually make me tired. I would sleep to it at night. Um, but when I fixed those lower chakras, ginseng energized me because again, it was filling up the reservoir. I wasn't just leaking it out, right? Almost like kind of like if you have a little bit of water, if you have a hole in your tank up to here, if you're low in your tank, it's not leaking. But once you start filling it more, it overflows. So you gotta seal
Mm.
that leak so you can get higher. So if I haven't even listened to this one, I'm not releasing it until July 17th. Um, I can't even pronounce the word. it, essentially it's an extremely high frequency field, and I get ungrounded after like 2 or 3 listens of it. So like it's not even like a daily use in my stack. But I also know that it's not because it's vamping me, it's just because it's just like harnessing lightning or plasma, and I'm not the conduit for it yet. And that's another thing too. It's like being honest about yourself in terms of like your own energetic health and sensitivity and awareness. Um, yeah, everyone's different. Everyone's different.
So you said in your stack, so you'll have like a lineup or a playlist of these fields, and do you like try to have them be complementary to each other? Like how many are in there? Like is there general rules of the road around like what you should look for when creating your own stack of morphic fields?
Uh, every person's different, but for me, I keep mine. We discussed this. I keep mine my open swim shocks. They're titanium over the ear vibrational osteophonic headphones, so it doesn't actually emit like a loud sound. People can actually hear like a speaker or other traditional headphones. It vibrates through your skull, which I also suspect has some good benefits for the cymatic portion of things. But anyways, I have mine again approaching all my different facets of life from various angles. So like I have zero entropy, which is again essentially harnessing lightning in a bottle of Jing Qi and Shen to the max, Descendo Mater to ground any excess energies, androgenic morphogenesis for my and it's still a pretty simple field, just it's amplified in a new way with some techniques I discovered for androgens, so for testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, and just masculinity in general, androgen receptors as well. So my goals of becoming more muscular, more masculine, more energetic, more grounded, there's those. Then I have my 616 symbiotes, which are again kind of like my really I could just do that as my sack, but again, always pushing the limits and going higher and higher. And then they have a variety of functions. And then I also have omnatic, omniscient, somatic genesis, which is a bodybuilding, and that one's been great while biking. But I have them all on shuffle, um, because again, I don't have an issue of keeping fields within my field. Now, if someone's having a hard time resonating with the field, and getting it to stick, then I recommend just looping a singular field at a time. And again, being more active with it. If you're not getting results through passive use, whether it be keeping mandalas just in your subconscious awareness or in your space or on your person, then perhaps meditating on the mandala for like 30 minutes a day while listening to the field as well would be in your benefit. If you're not getting results, lowering your stack. Again, I generally tell people like less is more.
Mm.
It's going to be hard. The bigger your stack gets, the harder it is to determine what is giving you what benefit. And the same thing again is true from a physical perspective. If I take L-arginine, L-agmatine, L-citrulline, and L-norvaline, and I get a gnarly pump, and I've never taken it before. I take it before I work out, and I get a gnarly pump. Can I truly determine which one of those was the highest factor in influencing the change? No, I can't. This is why, again, I know people they want it all now, and I'm guilty of that myself. And I make these things. I have to exercise discretion in terms of all right, I'm just going to stick with this for a period of time. And I would say generally you should commit to a stack for at least a month or 21 days, because that's how long habits take as well, to truly
Mm.
see changes take effect. Because with some of the fields too, you can experience detox symptoms. If a field is meant for dopamine and doom scrolling, and now you're not getting your fix, it's doing its job, and you're not getting your fix of going to get that easy dopamine. It's going to take, you're not just going to be writing Mozart and Bach up until 3 a.m. right away. It takes time to get into harmonize. Some people are hyper responders, but for the bulk of you, it's going to take time to fully resonate and change with that field and harmonize with it. I think we got everything there.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you maybe talk about like what the symptoms of like burnout would be? So like if someone was overloading their aura and was looping something for like 24 hours in a row, what are the warning signs that you might be overdoing it?
Headaches, dehydration, best way I say is being ungrounded, but someone's very like they're very active in their upper chakras, but they're no longer like in connection with their body. Um, that would be a state of anxiety. Um, yeah, just again, thinking this from an electrical standpoint, you know, if you're running a high voltage and you're not grounded, well, where's the electricity gonna go? It's gonna fry something. I've had this happen with tuning
Mm.
forks, at Bufo ceremony once. You know, I wasn't grounded, only had one foot in the ground, and I was using a tuning fork, and the tuning fork broke. You know, it was the weak
Oh,
link in
whoa.
the chain. It was a meth. He was a meth addict, the guy I was working on. So again, when that different polarities meet, you know, where's the weakest link? Sometimes I break. You know, I've had that too, fields and with shamanism, but that's a whole nother story. And then also again, I want to touch on the purging thing as well. A big difference between healing and treating people is that healing sometimes you get worse before you get better, right?
Right.
So like I had someone recently, their dog is afflicted with parasites of different kinds. And I even said, like, you know, dogs are familiars for their families, just as cats are. All pets are familiars, and they take on the energy of their family. So if your pet is suffering from a condition, it's probably because one of you in your household have that exact same condition or something related. And I said to him, he did 2 days of doing the protocol I gave him of least yeast, fungi, suicidal cancer, and some other like purgative, you know, fields. And he said, "Oh, my dog started puking up like some nasty things," which again, a lot of people, when it comes to combo or turpentine, immediately get scared because of the purgative aspects of it, of like, oh, I don't want to puke, I don't want to shit myself. But like the Native Americans called that like getting well, like when it came
Mm.
to like going into the lodge or like drinking mescaline or again like iboga, like you need to purge, you know, and your body is always trying to heal itself. But again, the fields help, you know, help bring in that program, that architect to say like this stuff's got to go. And again, if you're not willing to let go of what made you sick, the chances of you being able to resonate at that next level is probably slim. If you got a bunch of viruses and malware in your hard drive, well,
Yeah. Yeah. So except it reminded me of that scene in The Matrix where he's got like that bug inside of him, and like they got that machine, and they're like, "This is gonna hurt," but it's like you got to do it. Like it's a threshold that like you're gonna go through a lot of pain in order to remove these negative and harmful things that are within you. But yeah, like the throwing up might look like being worse, but it's ultimately the only way to get better. Um, so I think you kind of also alluded to it too, just in that of like, what does success look like? But so if someone like burnt out, like the anxiety, maybe depression, feeling ungrounded, but like, what are maybe some signs that that you're doing well with the fields, and you like have it tuned into like a good amount of time and consistency?
I would say for one, when you can see when you're seeing tangible physical results, is a great, and it's a self-perpetuating cycle and prophecy at that point. Because once you start seeing like, I remember when I made Extrembio and I was like getting hairier hands, I was like, this is when I was new and I had like self-doubt about myself, you know, right? Of like whether or not I was like actually doing this right way, because it's harder to verify things in in these psychic energetic realms. And starting to see those shifts, like, oh wow, like this is different. Or when people start treating you differently, that's also a really good, like, oftentimes when someone uses something that removes cords, whether it be for vampires, for past sexual partners, or people who are abusive, people call these people narcissists, heavy manipulation. I've had it happen so many times where someone messaged me, whether it be sex is sacred or cord sword or Irma Vep equals vampire, and they say, "Oh my god, I listened to that field yesterday," and then the person I was trying to like, my ex from years ago, messaged me, and what that
Mm,
is that's like a last rites, like, you know, when you exercise a demon, you give them like their last rites, or
mm,
you know, when you execute someone, you give them like their last, you know, your last words. You know, that's oftentimes that manifestation of what's happening, is that if we use cord sword and or you know, do a curse removal, curse hearse, no weapons formed shall prosper, then the person oftentimes is going to want to get their supply back. And it's not like they consciously knew, like, oh, this person removed my sacral attachments from them. Like, it
Right.
just manifests in the physical reality very quickly. Because again, the separation is illusion, time and
Mm.
space, it's all relative in the end of things. And they're wondering, like, well, why am I not getting this energy anymore? I want it back. So they try to reach out again. That's usually why and that's another thing of where, like, well, things looking worse before they get better. Or again, if you're using a field to purify yourself and your relationships, there might be some moldavite energy at play, if there is moldavite in that field, which could cause massive rapid transformation. But again, we talked about this before. It's like, well, if you want to get struck by lightning, we can make that happen. But there might be some pain that goes with that path and rapid ascent. So,
Careful what you wish for.
yes.
Yeah, I've noticed myself with in like my dream world, and I've started listening to Chord Sword. And I've had people appear in my dreams that I haven't like seen or thought about in years, and I'm wondering if that's where, I mean, they haven't like reached out to me like via any 3D realm means, but I think just like the vividness in which they appeared in my dreams maybe felt like one of those like last hurrah, or last attempt for connection. Does that sound about right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a very common experience as well. And then again, the dreams, the astral is a foreshadowing of what is going to occur in the physical usually. And not always, but again, you're not always consciously aware. That person could have thought about texting you the next day and then said, no, I'm gonna leave them alone. Like that was like the end of it.
Mm,
You don't know. But yeah, dreams are also a really, thank you for bringing that up. Dreams are also a really powerful way of seeing how a field is manifesting for you because, you know, for some of the fields, like especially like the symbiotes, a lot of their abilities take are going to take a longer time to manifest fully in the 3D reality. Because another thing too, like you even kind of hit on this before about like belief still is a powerful thing, right? It's been said before that like there are people walking the planet who are capable of performing miracles to the extent or magic to the extent of like someone like Yeshua, but who simply cannot because there's so much surrounding disbelief and doubt, right? This is
mm.
why also the power of doing rituals and other magical things in private and not telling anyone. Because again, and I've talked to you about this before, if you're doing stealthy reconnaissance and whatnot, don't tell anyone, or if you're smuggling something, because now they're going to be thinking about it, and that leaves a trail and a scent in the air. Most people may not be conscious of it, but subconsciously they're picking up on that energy. So, lost my train of thought there. Did I get everything there?
Yeah, no, I think just on the symbiotes piece, I guess in my mind, I'm still
Uh,
having a hard time separating the morphic field from the symbiote. Like, are they like? Yeah, can you just like talk about the symbiotes more specifically there, and maybe why they came up in the morphic field conversation?
yeah. So they're honestly some of my favorite creations because of how uh limitless they really are. I'm just bringing them right on the site. So like the ones we have for sale on the site are the 616 series. I made these back in I want to say it was October of last year. So they've been out for about 8 months. Right, symbiote, toxin symbiote, venom symbiote, carnage symbiote, and then arachnid for Arana, symbiote, all the other symbiotes, and then Tulpamancy, Eatergore, and binding. So first off, let's look at the word symbiote. So there's common themes are that they bond, or some could view it as parasitism, but again, it's a symbiote. It works in um, parallel
Symbiosis.
with the host. Yeah, symbiosis. Yeah, it works in parallel with the host. And again, often offers a lot of benefits, in exchange again. But this is where again the price point comes in play. If you can't feed yourself, you probably shouldn't be taking on another energy or consciousness to feed as well.
Mm,
And I want to talk about the difference of these as well is that they have their own consciousness. With the 616 ones, they are connected to the riot, the toxin, the venom, the carnage that is within the collective sphere of Marvel, DC Comics, what have you. Again, I didn't put specifics It's up to the user and how they tap into those energy and how it manifests for them. So again, no person's riot or toxin carnage. None of their symbiotes are the same exact personality or, interaction with them. There's going to be some common themes based upon what additives I put into it. But then the Tulpamancy and egregoric aspects, or the servitor, which I have within Arana, which links them all together, that breathes life into it in the sense of they have their own objectives with things, right? Carnage is going to approach situation much differently than Venom based upon his personality. So that's where they differ with the feels, because there can be a two-way crosstalk between you and the symbiote. And they actually, for some people, have clairaudient experiences.
Hmm.
Again, someone on the channel recently just posted about how her symbiote I made for her back in October taught her overnight how to make fields. Like, she wasn't asking, and she knows the voice of her symbiote. And I, like, if I describe like the voices or the personalities of like my 616, like Riot feels like Scorpio energy slash like me in the military or my biological father. Toxin feels like Sagittarius energy and like very childlike, but like much more innocent and like naive of the world. Venom feels just very like kind of like grandfather energy and more ancient. And then Carnage is like just like violence, and like sometimes I just hear like I hear like die upon my sword like in my head like when listening to that field. And again, these are things that people have to experiment as well and see, like, and you can task them out to do different things as well. Like, again, like you can send them up in sensory duty. You can ask them to, take excess energy and apply it towards your physiology. You could, the limitations are not there. That's also why I don't like telling, but like the applications are infinite. Yeah.
Hmm. So the imagination is the only limitation when it comes to what kind of morphic field you would be able to create or want to interact with.
Yes, sir. But again, the distance between your frequency, the user, or again, whoever's trying to harmonize with it is going to determine, again, each individual interaction is really important. And that's why, again, I don't give out blanket statements of it's going to do this, 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 that, and the other, because I'd be lying. There's too many factors to consider. I don't even want to step foot in that territory.
Right. Right. And it's like you're saying, the further away you are from that end state when you start out, is going to have a huge impact on how long it takes you to get there. So it's like if you've never gone to the gym a single day in your life and you're listening to like a field for physical strength, it's like, all right, that's not going to be overnight. You gain 50 pounds of pure muscle, and next thing you're benching 300 pounds or whatever. Like, you got to kind of work with the field over time in order to achieve those results.
Yes, yes. Just like anything. Again, and not to say there's not outlier cases. There's times where people don't do anything to work in cohesiveness with the field and they still get results. That's where, again,
Mm.
just everyone's different. I mean, I played styptic stitches the other night for our dog who had stitches in her eye, and the bleeding was like her eye looked so much better next day. So I mean, like, it's no two situations, no two interactions are gonna be the same. The only thing is you have to give it a try. Yeah.
Excellent. Anything else you want to inform the audience about before we wrap things up here?
I just want to thank everyone that's been like an initial supporter of me, because I know it's not even been a year of me creating these, and it's been a heck of an adventure for those who, if you know, you know. And I just, I've said it before, to be trusted is to be greater than being loved. So thank you for your trust and your support, as I will always strive to remain noble.
Excellent. Yeah, and check out the website, nobutheshaman.com, and then the Telegram. I think we got some links at the bottom of the website page to join the channel there, and you can join the discussion with some other folks, like Nobu said, that have been there from day one with him, and they're always happy to share their experiences and their thoughts on the fields they've been working with, and uh, get the announcements of the latest ones that have been dropped.
Excellent.
Thanks again,
Thank you,
Nobu,
Glenn.
for sharing with us. And thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time.